Good evening. Welcome to the Monday Live, which follows a Kiwi Open winner. What a finish! How clutch was that?
Fantastic, yeah. From start of that final round to the finish ending, that was excitement the whole way through, which was fantastic for our viewers, wasn't it?
I thought it was a round that really ebbed and flowed. I think when you looking at the end score, when we had the 62s earlier in the week, I thought, oh no, this is really, is this too easy? It's only come at Birkdale, the 62s in the Open, it seems like.
We were all saying in here whether players are going to start getting away with it and sort of, was they going to carry on being that low score in there, but sort of conditions changed a little bit and sort of got quite, obviously got a lot firmer, breeze got up, and sort of key players were making certain mistakes, weren't they? Halfway round and sort of doing a few weird decisions, you could possibly say.
Yeah, and I think you look at Scheffler for the week had one of the worst putting stats of everyone the whole week. If he putts averagely, he wins. It's that whole story of, I think, back at Augusta where he played great tee to green, didn't hold anything. If he plays averagely, he wins. But
it's full of excitement and drama. Wasn't it the whole whole week?
Absolutely. I think I thought Sam Burns would get this one. I think the start of the round, I thought he was the one that would he just looked, the first few rounds, he just looked so
solid,
steady.
Didn't he? And his bullfight sort of doesn't move, does it, much, rather than other players, they sort of shape it quite big. And possibly in the wind, that may have, it's obviously proved to be.
And I think what you did see towards the back end of Saturday and into Sunday, the players that just weren't comfortable in that environment, the players who maybe didn't necessarily expect to be there, tempo got up. I mean, we saw Daniel, was he? Mind blank. Had the 62 as well.
Lucas Herbert.
Lucas Herbert, sorry.
Well, obviously a good player, but obviously now.
The shot he hit on 17 on Saturday, having hit it in the bundu left, and then took a drop, and then this 6-iron from a sandy uphill lie.
It's incredible.
It's just mad.
Mad. Quite a nice player for us because he has such a mixed variety of brands in the bag and such a mixed bag, which is lovely to see, and just uses exactly what is best for his game and sort of just likes what he plays with.
I just thought the finish, Fox just didn't miss a shot. I mean, even the tee shot on 15 that caught the lip, came back and was under the back lip. The way he dealt with that, he just didn't miss a shot from there on in. Shots on 16, even 17, the tee shot, it got the bunker, but he absolutely nailed it. It just ran a yard too far.
Or I think on players on that 15, other players would have been a little bit more nervy or would have crumbled possibly a little bit in that scenario. But he just was so calm, and he just even on 18, that we were watching it again, the highlights today. That tee shot on 18 was just so sort of put tee down quick, give it a rip, and
that was the other bit that I liked.
Not much like just let's get this done type attitude, which was...
He just didn't give himself time to get in his own way, I think, was sort of the way I felt about it. And I'm not going to lie, you were seeing someone play that fast. I think they did a timer in from Burns holding out to Ryan Fox hitting his winning putt was 22 seconds. From when you consider ball goes in the hole, Burns has to pick his ball out, get out of the way, you come in, you put your ball back down. That's 10 seconds gone. Stood behind it, lined it up, in, hit. 22 seconds for that. They nearly missed it on the coverage. Really isn't much. But I think
that says refreshing. A lot. I think it also says a lot for the viewers as well, or for us and the viewers out there. It's actually like when you've, especially putting, when you see a line and you've sort of committed to something, just give it a roll and send it on its way, and whatever will be.
I think if everything I owned was shaking in the way his, there's no way I could do that.
Of course.
And hold it anyway, but
if he said afterwards everything was like wobbling around. But
just good guy. He's known to be a good guy. I think there would have been a certain amount drunk last night in celebration.
Absolutely.
Just seeing him, and not the youngest, was 39 now. I actually thought he was a little bit younger than that. But he's done his time. He's built his career's built. He's won big tournaments, BMW Championship, the Dunhill Links.
Same,
He's won some big tournaments.
Those tournaments also, he's never been really like a big front runner. He's always come from behind and sort of just like, let's get it done type attitude, which is cool to see. It's always
I
exciting.
slightly felt for Cam Young hearing that roar on the practice ground, having posted that score, bogeying the last. It looked like playoff all the way through to, well, when Fox put his second shot on the green, you kind of go, oh, this just has that feel of it taking the moment. But up until that point, playoff looked shoe-in for an option.
Yeah, especially down that last hole. It's tough last hole. Really, really tough last hole. I wouldn't want to play that in the middle and try and make
5 to win.
5 let alone 3 to get it done. And then over the other side of the pond, we PGA Tour, which was a little bit sort of under the radar. We had Todd Clements, sort of very close to us, which he obviously comes second.
Good finish that. I know he'd have been disappointed not to get it
absolutely.
Done. But that's still a great result. It's great for confidence. Great to see the game progressing.
And again, for those players which are sort of like on the invite basis, for them and their season and their career, that's massive. Yeah. Such a big, vital win, or like obviously a second place.
Ranking points.
Oh, huge.
It's a shame, not to be in the Open, but to go and perform like that. That's great for Todd.
Yeah,
he'd really pleased.
Yeah, he'd be coming back happy in a way. Absolutely.
That's about it.
Good. Yeah. Or we could bring up the old drama, but
I'm sure the drama will come up in that. I think.
You got
if you want to talk about the drama, then stick us any particular questions in.
Or the rough debacle, just shout.
The one thing I will say is I think that the rules are the rules, and the rules often are there you can use them to your advantage without necessarily bending the rules. But if you walked into a bush and broke a branch off to step back and look at the line, that's a clear-cut penalty.
Yeah.
How different really was it? You have to look at it in the context of, has the swing line been improved? Have you given yourself a clearer line? You go back to Brian Davis in the playoff, I think it was a playoff at the Heritage, where he caught a reed in his backswing at the bunker, and he called the penalty on himself because it was in the hazard, it caught it. It's tough for the players who are on camera the whole time because they're going to get seen more than anyone else. But I think the one thing I think as a viewer, as a fan of the sport, we all want, and this, I'll use the Football World Cup as an example here, you want consistency of the way the rules are implemented. And you don't want to see one person get away with it and another person not. And I think utter fairness with those rules. And if one of the flagship players does something, you call them on it, you penalise them. If a lesser player does it, you call them on it, you penalise them. And I think that, for me, that's where I think sometimes it becomes a little bit challenging.
It's a consistency point, but also we don't want to sort of turn it into the whole VAR for golf.
I think there was a period where people were phoning in, calling things in, and that just doesn't feel right. I think the rules officials have all the footage, and if they see something, like, fine. You don't think you want kind of, Bob from down the road phoning in, under rule this, that section, this, that, and the other. I think that you let the tournament run, and you let the rules bodies at that tournament run the tournament. But hoping that they're watching all the footage and there's someone with each group that can police it. But ultimately, if they've gone through the footage and he's deemed to have breached the rule, then so be it.
Yeah, that is that.
But I guess the final bit that I would say is how you deal with it. If there's evidence provided and it's all been dealt with, I think the problem is you can make it worse by not taking it on the chin. It's going to be painful in a major.
That's probably the way Rory was looking at it. I know he obviously chucked a little bit of wood on the fire there, but I think he was probably looking at it in the way that is the way he dealt maybe afterwards, possibly.
It had big knock-on effects.
Sort of riled him up a little bit.
But anyway, let us know what you think. Or if
get in here, see what you think. Put a thumbs up or thumbs down with our opinions. And
go the old Roman way.
Exactly. Right, let's go. Let's see where we're at. At Free Blue CJ, evening fellas, I have an Acura Shogun Green 52 with a QI 35 tipped. 45 playing length. I've just got a GTS2 and would like to re-tip it to fit. What am I up against are a tip/prep/swing weight?
Well, swing weight's going to depend on what the head weight differential is. Technically, it shouldn't be very much. The TaylorMades historically have been a little bit heavier, but actually the Titleist seem to have crept a little heavier the last couple of seasons, so this shouldn't be too much from a head weight differential. I think you're more in the workshop than I am, but I think how the shaft is removed, cleaned down, and re-prepped for installation, it's great material, so you should be pretty safe with the shaft quality itself. However, the moment you overheat it to get it off, you can damage it, so you've got to be really careful with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it'd be interesting to know how much you've tipped it by going into the QI 35. In the drivers, we don't normally sort of see the tipping. Don't normally tip it to the driver, do we?
Can do a little bit. I think it's. I mean, that shouldn't affect the reinstallation.
Yeah.
As long as the tip's been prepped correctly going into it in the first place, then that shouldn't have any. There shouldn't be any kind of negative effects from that at all. I think it's just making sure that how it's pulled and then reinstalled is the key thing, not to damage the shaft.
Yeah, then absolutely take it somewhere if you can that you can measure the overall head weight of the QI 35 and raw weight as a total, and then see how you can, I guess, get it and then match them both in and sort of fine tune it with the weights, and then you can use a tip weight, and then you can obviously hot mount.
Yeah, and beauty with the GTS, if it's
you really want to get it
2 or 3.
2.
At least with the GTS2, you've got the ability to play around with CG position forward and back and total weight. So there are options. If you can get a hold of some of those weights, you can fine tune the swing weight and the CG of the head to suit. So there's lots of options for you with that, and then the hosel position as well. So should be able to be dialed in pretty easily.
Right, we've got at Peter Kendall 1946. Simon, I had a look at my Rogue driver at 86 miles per hour, and I said I would not gain any more distance unless I gain speed. Can I gain any distance/dispersion with a new driver on the market?
So off-centre is where they're, relative to the Rogue, there probably is a gain now. I think maintenance of ball speed off-centre, that we're seeing some good results with both the, with a good chunk of the heads this year, particularly the TaylorMade and the Titleist have been very good with that. Spin consistency off those two, very good. So the margin of error off-centre is going to be a little bit better. At the middle, with the launch and spins you were getting from that club head, it's still a good head, but you've got less area around the sweet spot to get away with it. Essentially the new heads are going to maintain performance a little bit better now.
Absolutely worth coming in and testing the heads with your shaft, but also revisiting and how long is it? He hasn't said how long it's been. So if it has been a few years,
I think we looked at Peter, I want to say last year, but then time seems to be going. I'm pretty sure it was last year. But time seems to be kind of going, taking it on a life of its own now. But I'm sure it's not that long ago. But I think this batch off centre definitely maintained performance a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. At Tractor Boy Dave, back again. Hi Simon, would like to thank you for your email response to last week's question. The SS Flatso 3 was a great alternative to the 2 Thumb. Perfect. Thanks again. Awesome.
Pleasure.
Awesome. At Noel_1988. Evening gents, 2-part question on the dispersion. 1 low spin golf ball with low club head speed, pros and cons. And does tipping tighten dispersion? Let's go golf ball one.
Golf one first.
Low spin golf ball with low club head speed, pros and cons.
I guess you've got to make sure you're getting enough launch angle. So depending on where that spin sits, a lot of the time the golf ball, I guess, with something like a driver, you're probably looking at higher spin to lower spin. I guess probably about potentially 700 or 800 reps.
Yeah.
If you're going into something like and depending on what speed as well, you can get a little bit of a separation. Some of the technically low spin golf balls, if they're high compression, you might find spin a little bit for you if you're at low speed. So actually making sure that he's giving you that spin performance is the one thing. But keep launch angle.
I'd say the golf ball one is a funny one where you can also get a little bit. I always find you can get a little bit too deep into it on the wood outcome, but then actually where you gain your shots in the short game stuff for the pitching, chipping, like where you're going to make up your real shots around the green, and also the way it comes off the putter, with what speed that ball is going to come off the putter. If you can get something which links in with both of that sort of area, I find people gain more in that aspect rather than into the possibly the drive where it might hover around, change from 300 to 400 revs.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your
I think if you're trying to influence,
and obviously the control aspect.
if you're trying to influence driver distance, ball is the fine tune. It's not going to be one of the major levers you've got. That would be more head style and loft and swing dynamics as well. So creating an efficient delivery using a head that optimizes launch and spin will gain you more than a few hundred revs on spin, because it's not really, if you're not changing ball speed, a few hundred revs of spin, you're looking at a few yards. But as you say, you could tail off more performance by trying to squeeze a bit more out of that and lose control of the irons. So you're likely to have to go extreme to make a difference on golf ball, a big enough difference with spin with driver. And so it's just being careful of not
just when you next go.
Also,
when you next go for your like an overview of your bag or fitting, we're very lucky where we have every single golf ball possible to try in sessions. So we can start with that golf ball you play, get you warming up, and then we can also switch around and sort of the guys who are fitting, myself, Simon, and the other guys. So by the end of the session, we'll probably advise another ball for you to have a little go with out there. Possibly with your staff, so you get fitted, but you're also double fitted into the golf ball aspect, which is important, isn't it? It's only one piece of product we use all the time, every shot.
I think consistent golf ball is by a mile the most important thing. But if you're using a ball that exacerbates a flight deficiency, for want of a better phrase, if you're high spin and using a high spin ball, then you're just making it worse. Equally speaking, if you need spin with your irons and you're going too low spin with the driver, you're probably losing spin with the irons as well. So it's just making sure you're taking that overview. I think, prioritising a few yards with driver versus control with irons and wedges is probably not the best thing to do.
Right, so the second part of the question was, does tipping tighten dispersion?
No. No, it's not having a big enough effect. Technically, you're lessening a little bit of the deflection at the bottom end of the shaft, but it is really truly minimal. In principle, the answer is probably technically very slightly, but immeasurably tightly.
Not
for me.
No, it could make it worse, and it could if you're playing around with if you've got a shaft which times really nicely with you, and then you go tip it, it could go the other way. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think tipping's very much it's a very minimal thing. I think it's certainly not something you might use it just again to fine tune spin, to fine tune feel, but it's a real fine tune. It's no more than a couple of hundred revs, but it will make a shaft feel a little bit more stable, or not tipping, or feel a little bit more responsive. But it's a little bit, so it's not the main driver of what the ball flight does or the dispersion.
Right, so let's have a little look. So next question, at Solomon Dude 68, evening fellas, getting some tennis elbow in both arms from hitting on mats in a sim. Thinking of buying a 7-iron with a graphite shaft for practice to help dampen vibrations.
Interesting one. So it's a problem with a lot of the mats in that you've got a lot of base and then a small bit of felt on the top, whereas we've got that much pile of material and then a small base. So you actually the pile of the mat helps to absorb a little vibration, whereas the ones that we see a lot have it's just a real shock into your joints and the club head. So that's really difficult. The danger of practicing with a club that's a different spec to what you're playing with is that your time, if you go graphite, it's going to be a different feel, different timing.
Plus, he's just put underneath. So shaft would be a similar feel to DG mid 115 stiff. But as Simon said, you would be going from that graphite series, even though you might have the same feel, you'll be jumping in weights quite significantly.
Oh, what graphite? The only thing is, similar in feel, you're going to have to go a similar weight. And actually, are you going to gain enough from that change? It won't be the answer you want to hear, but the answer is to not practice on those mats.
Yeah.
And find some, especially if this time of year, unless it's winter where you are and it's horrid weather outside. It's a difficult it's a difficult one, because if you then want to practice with the tech and it's an indoor sim with a ropey mat, then that's really difficult. That's a really tough one.
That's a tough question.
I would say limit the amount of time practicing and make sure the quality's there, and reduce the amount of balls hit. If you're getting that much shot from the mat, you're going to get it through the graphite as well.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe I was playing more, I put my balls into like stages. So maybe if you're putting your golf balls into like 3s or 5s in piles, maybe almost change up what you're doing. Don't do the similar shot pattern every single time, or do 3s or 5s and then stop for a bit, take a breather and then jump back in, and maybe not continuous, possibly into the driving into the mat.
As I say, it's a real chance we get it in winter here. The weather's awful, and then you end up hitting off mats, and if the mats are not great, then it just causes injuries. It's a really difficult one, because you're doing the right thing by wanting to practice, yet you're suffering from it. So,
and we can see it, like the golf clubs may not want to invest in a high end mat because they are expensive, but then if you hit down into the mat also, it can out of the loft and lofting eyes, and then again that puts another in there.
I mean, if you were to go into a graphite diamond gold mid, at that end it's going to be, I'm trying to think what would be similar in terms of graphite, getting that one. To get that kind of, you'd have to go into even the 105 to 110 to get it close. You're then looking at actually probably a fairly dear graphite shaft.
Yeah, it's quite that Acra.
You've got the Acra, the TZI,
which is
graphite design, the Rorno in the 105, or an Axiom, and they're all pretty darn dear.
Yeah, it won't make it cheap exercise.
And there's a lot of material, so they can actually sometimes they will feel harder potentially than the steel because of the amount of wall thickness. It's a difficult one. I would really prioritise quality of balls hit and less balls hit, and see if that helps alleviate it a little bit. Because I think you could end up spending money on something that doesn't necessarily fix it, and then doing more harm than good to your timing by practicing with a different setup.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Right, let's move on. At Andrew Hormet, long time no speak, chaps. Love my PG clubs and getting to know them better every round. Fantastic news. How would I go about getting a MOT to check they're still spot on, and if any changes are needed after a year?
So just give the studio a call or fire us an email in, and we can book in a follow-up timing. Just an appointment in, just to go over everything, just a bit of a recap. So obviously with having done the set things before, it wouldn't be kind of a full fitting fee or anything, but just fire us an email over, and we can let you know times to put that in. If there are particular kind of date range that suits you, let us know, and we can find a time for you.
And it might be
important
that
check.
For everyone, yourself and also all the other viewers, it might be that you wait until the off season comes and then come in, do the grip, like a re-grip assessment, make sure the grips are all fresh in the off season, and then you do the little loft and lie check.
Loft lies, make sure. It might be that if you worked in your swing, improved timing, it might be a slight fine tune from a spec point of view. Sometimes fine tune swing weight, those sort of things that actually are really tiny changes but can make quite a good difference. So.
At Max W Mosque. Hi, hey, how would you go about developing a shot for a certain hole on course? There's a 100-yard par 3, and I have a big gap between my big gap between my 44 pitch and wedge and 52 wedge that I struggled to bridge.
So the lofts are the big key here.
Yeah.
Through main body of the set of irons, most of the loft gaps are 4 degrees, and then we generally go to 5, maybe 6 degrees in wedges at most, and you've got an 8-degree gap there. So essentially you've got a 2 club gap. So what I would advise doing is you're getting a look at those lofts and see whether you kind of maybe pull the pitch wedge back a degree to 45 and see if you can nudge the 52 up towards more like 50, which will really kind of narrow the gap up, give you 2 degrees with the wedge is generally 7 or 8 yards.
Absolutely.
So
if you've got a also you're going to have a probably likely to have a pitch and wedge from this, obviously, which is into the set, and then jump to a more of a specialist 52. So again, it's almost going to enhance the gap. You're going to have something with a 52, which is going to spin a little bit more.
Yeah.
Possibly, if you've still got the
heavier shaft as well.
standard stock shaft, that's also going to kick it up a bit more, spin it even more, and then so you almost bridge that gap here a touch more.
Yeah, I think depending on what lofts you've got above that, it's just trying to make sure the gaps don't get too spread out, but equally speaking, you say 8 degrees is a heck of a lot. So that's really why it's not that you haven't got a shot, it's just that the loft gap means that other than slightly thinning the 52, there's not really a way of taking all the pace off the pitch wedge, which is then really hard to manage. If you could kind of nudge those lofts in, either it's less to take off the pitch wedge, or it's
It sounds like
gettable with the gap wedge.
instead of developing the shot, you might be playing it. That you might be playing the pitch and wedge and the 52, fantastic, and putting a lovely swing on it, but you just haven't got the tool to do the job. It's like a carpenter turning up to a job with a blunt saw. It's like he's got the right movement, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So don't judge yourself too harshly with it, but developing that, if it sits right in the middle there, then you've either got to hood the 52 to get it there or chip a pitch wedge, which is both are really basically impossible to repeat. So just look at those lofts.
Right, we've got at Shako 79, currently playing a Titleist GT3 10 degree, setting A1 with the weight in T1, which made a huge difference. Is the GT3 more fade biased, and how does it compare to the GT3 in terms of launch and spin? Could you hit both?
GTS3.
Yeah, it must be GTS3.
So we
possibly
don't have
new
the
one.
GT3 anymore to hit. The main question, is a GT...
More fade biased, how does it compare to the GTS?
I'm assuming
Free,
GTS
let's say,
versus GT.
in
Is it more
terms of
fade
launch and
biased? I
spin.
wouldn't have said so.
No.
I think the Titans are pretty neutral. And I think what the GT3, if you squeeze it a little bit, I think was a little bit stronger. I think GTS is, by having a bit more weight back, has actually made it slightly more stable, but not quite as strong on spin for some players. So actually been looking at GTS4 for some players instead. The GT3 is a very, very good head, and for the GTS to be, I don't know if it's the right phrase, better enough to what I'm going to. Not sure we're going to see many people going down that route, other than potentially the GTS2 weight forward might give the combination of stability and low spin. But GT was a really good head. Is GTS more fade biased? I don't think so.
No,
I've not seen that for sure. But with how good GT was, chances are it's hard to say it would be likely to justify from a value point of view making a change.
Especially if you've got it's not going to jump much, is it?
It was fast, good on spin. Technically, GTS is a hair better off centre, a hair better retaining ball speed and spin, but it's a small amount. Probably feel a bit more stable, but
it's minimal. It's got minimal.
Yeah, sadly we haven't got the GTs left, so I can't do that comparison, I'm afraid.
Right, at Nick KSO, hey Simon, which shafts are most similar to the Acra FX 3.0 260 M4? Currently gaming one in my mini driver.
Okay, so the GX range is pretty close. 260 M4 is not going to be a million miles off. Might feel a little bit crisper. I think the FX maybe had a slightly more responsive feel. probably, so the FX, that would have been around the 63-4 gram mark. I think if there's anything else that would compare to it,
I think
wouldn't get
So
a
it's-
million miles off with the
I think
Fuji Pro Blue,
it'd have to
more
get
responsive feel, but
I think you'd have to get some numbers off it and just dial or get some baseline numbers and see what it's doing for you now, as you've had, as I said.
the thing
As
is,
the
if
FX
it's
series,
working
if
well,
you've got
it doesn't stop being a good shaft for you.
No.
So changing shaft might not achieve anything if it's working well. So, I know Tony Johnson playing a Grapholoid Pro Light in his driver for years and years and years because
There's still a lot of guy, even though it might get a
Still
little
work for it.
tarnished and a little tarnished and old. There's a lot of guys even this week playing some old shaft, which
didn't Stenson go
Still
back
do
into
a
his
real good job.
Diablo
I
Octane
think he
tour
did,
with a
you know.
Grapholoid Blue,
Yeah.
I think, into his fairway.
a throwback.
Yeah. So just because the shaft's old doesn't mean it stops working. I've been in a Kyoshi Purple in my fairway wood for a long time. I forgot how long. It's over 10 years. And all I've done over the years is change flex, but the shaft still works well for me. So, possibly another one that could be similar to it. Maybe the Oban Revenge 6. That would be a similar, maybe a little bit more tip responsive, but GX is probably the closest range. It might be a couple of grams lighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping in that similar feel as well, isn't it? Still in the Acra series or Acra brand, let's say. At Shaco79, back again, which aftermarket shafts compares to the Project X Titan?
Well, the Titan there is an aftermarket Project X Titan. So that one, I think in principle, you'd often see it. There is a marginal difference. Some shafts are the same aftermarket as the stock ones. So Titan is one that, the Denali Frost series of one, there was a slight difference between what was released in stock versions to aftermarket, but really minor. Same with like the original Denali Blue, and the TXs were a different toy level construction.
Yeah, there'll be a
stock
slightly
ones
different
were a
grade.
slightly lower grade material. Titan, I'm trying to remember whether it is different or not, but basically the aftermarket one is butt stable, kind of mid-balance, designed around sort of slightly lower launch and spin, but there is an aftermarket version of it.
Yeah, there's also a couple more coming, which says Project Titan Yellow. Writing just goes to yellow, and then there's a green, which mimics the old Hulk.
Yeah, and the yellow will be a
Which
counterbalance.
again, more of a counterbalance, but pretty stable shaft.
Yeah. I mean, even the black, which is the first one, the one that we saw in January, it's still a pretty stable playing shaft. So for me, butt stable just goes straight up in the air. Butt stiff I launched, which in theory shouldn't happen, but I tend to kick them up in the air.
Quite fun ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe. Nicholas Carnett 4276. Where does DG 120 X 100 fall in between DG 120 S 300 and a normal DG X 100? Just weight or more to it?
So it's relative to the 120 S300. It's a slightly stiffer profile of it. Weight's marginal difference, so it sits way closer to that. The 120 swing a lot more tip heavy than the standard dynamic gold. Standard DG is pretty neutral from a balance point of view. You take that, the S3 has a bit more kick in the middle to the X1, but actually balance-wise they're pretty neutral, whereas the 120s are very tip heavy as a shaft.
And again, obviously the X1 is going to be very stable in that tip section, rather than the S3 will give you a little bit, won't it?
Yeah, a little more play through the handle in the midsection. I'd say, it's just a slightly more stout version. It's not something an obvious statement. A slightly more stout version of the 120 S300, but it's very much closer to that than the standard dynamic gold.
All right, you read this one. This next one's quite funny. You know?
Tractable Dave Bryson moved around the ball with all the grace of a baby elephant. Well, ultimately, yeah. I think you'd have to agree. I think no one knows what was going on in his head. As much as he's a pretty unique character. Do I think he's a cheat? No.
Yeah, nah.
Was it careless? Yeah, but I think I think that's the case for a lot of them. I think
Yeah, they're in the
what you
mo-
tend to see is anything happens, call the rules official over. Granted, they don't want to
Yeah,
get found, they don't want to
course.
get seen
Yeah,
doing the wrong thing.
I don't think he's sort of, he hasn't tried to go out of his way and stamp it down.
Don't
well,
believe
you
so.
never know, but I don't believe so. And he is great. He is very good for golf. I think he is good for golf.
I think
and
Bryson, when
he's different.
Yeah, he is different. I think what he did in that evening,
Yeah.
letting them all hang
Yeah,
on,
which that
waiting
was a
till
that was
to
a
say
shame.
after midnight that he was going to play. You know, that's the side of things that I think, you know, just get on with it. You know, the tournament itself, the volunteers, the players, he left all waiting to find out what was going to happen and what their tee times were going to be, and you know that I don't think was great.
It disrupts everyone else, but then he does come out and
Or he's-
helps the generation, helps the kids,
Yeah,
and
he's
sort of
he's box office
sends-
to watch.
Yeah, it's cool. When he's on, it's entertaining, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and
Yeah,
you
so
know, it's always,
different.
you never quite know what's going to happen. You know, there are shots where he can pull off a shot where you think, my God, it's just unbelievable, and then the next one will go into the next county.
Yeah.
But he's someone that actually I watch, kind of going, I wonder what he's going to do.
Yeah,
And I
just
think in that respect, he's great.
Also, the chain, to be able to rock up to a major and change all your iron shafts,
Yeah,
your driver shafts back to what they used to be, and just have so many different changes within such a short amount of time,
Yeah.
and to still play really quite
No,
well.
he's a heck of a talent. He's a heck of a
Unbelievable.
talent,
He's like a mad scientist with his tech and his gear and
But
stuff.
I think he sometimes doesn't help himself.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, I saw the other evening, his driver, he's obviously got that new he had the new TaylorMade, obviously, the TaylorMade prototype head.
Yeah.
And then this week, apparently, he went back to his crank driver. I saw a video the other evening about his TaylorMade driver. There was a guy, they were putting his grip on, and because of the torque and the system in the grip, they were actually gluing the grip on. They had a layer of tape and they're gluing the grip on with some like Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
And then to like, just to
Make sure it doesn't twist.
make his, again, it's just fine details for
Yeah,
him with that speed, isn't it?
But no, yes, it was. He could have placed his feet more delicately. I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely. At Where Has My Sanity Gone? Good handle.
Down the Kazi.
Let's have a little look. Peeling back the onions, tested a Zen Light X small grip on my 48 RTZ, Zelos 8 stiff, and an 8 iron in my M15s, Zelos Reg 7, but needed a 6 gram of tape to activate the shaft kick and calm. -2 to -4 face closure, right-handed golfer. So still kicking it, so
Follow up bit, I think, as well.
yeah.
One thing I would say is that the 6 grams angle head to activate the shaft kick, that's more to get. It's not the shaft kick that you're activating with that. There's plenty of head weight on there to do that. It's more going to be the timing of when that club head comes through for you from a more of a swing weight point of view. You've got a 260, if it's a 7 iron, you've got a 265, 266 gram head in the first place. 6 grams extra is not going to make the shaft load and kick anymore, but it will affect the time. It's 3 swing weight points. So that will affect the timing of how that club head comes through. I think that's something that, I think that's a bit of a misconception of, activating the shaft is more about how you load it, not how the head weight is affecting it. But then also you've got, when you look at, okay, it's Bryson, go back to him, we're going to the X100s. One of the slow-mo footage of him, that is a stable shaft, but at impact you could see the amount that shaft's giving, and the back and forth oscillation of the shaft. So that Zelos 7 is definitely doing it. But it may have needed that extra weight to get the feel of the club head coming through.
Yeah, plus that if it's closing by that amount, the -6 to -4 face closure, that is a fair bit. So if you are on the range or next time you go to the range, possibly when you are hitting balls, get the ball in one ball on the mat in front, and you could put like a little, I don't know, whether it's a little piece of wood or a little bit of plastic in front of the ball, maybe a couple of foot, and ever so slightly right at the ball, and almost just feel like the club is guiding over that, just to keep the face a little bit further right on target, possibly. And again, that's not
there's a follow-up.
massive, but it would just be a little bit more of like a feel, and it would keep the club face a little bit down towards the right, possibly.
Yeah, there's a follow-up, so it feels okay, but didn't gain anything over the 12 at +4 mid setup. Would have jumped to the Zealous 8 stiff in the 15s be the next step, or am I spiralling? I think the thing for me is each change has to be backed by a reason and logic for doing it. I think the danger is that you can start to try things without really knowing why you're trying them and what the effect of what are you trying to improve by doing it. So that's why during a fit in here we'd be testing, right, I'm changing this balance point, I'm changing this profile, I'm changing this dead weight by 5 grams by a swing rate point, to see, right, does that do X, Y to the swing and the timing? Yes, no, what's too far? There's always a reason for making that change, and you're testing it to push the limits a little bit.
And then you'd go down a pathway and sort of gravitate towards certain areas, wouldn't you? And you'd be testing it in a moment.
I think the danger is you can go beyond a spec that works, trying to find something that might not be findable.
And actually, you might not be too far off where you were, but actually, if you again guide the face a little bit, or it's a little bit more of a feel thing, or the grip changes a touch, again that could spiral and just change your.
I mean, 12 velvet +4 mid-size versus a Zen light extra small. I mean, there's a grip weight change of best part of 20 grams there. So that will have a heck of an effect on it. So it's a case of isolate a change, certainly, and then you can see whether that change is making a positive difference. But I think the thing is knowing what is it you're trying to achieve with that change in the first place. The danger is that if we're lucky, we can screw on and off and change grips on and off and test them in very, very quick turnarounds, and it's reversible. Is that if you're changing club setups, which isn't easily reversible, i.e. you're re-gripping a club where it's glued on, or you're changing a shaft and it's glued in, then you hit one shot and go, oh, that didn't work. Then it's not an easy way to test. But granted, it might not be easy to come somewhere like this to test them out.
No,
but
of course. You might be
I think if
miles
you're
away.
searching for something in particular, it's worth the investment to do it this way, where you can be guided through the route as well.
By the time you go online, source the Zenlight, or just for example, for everyone, by the time you go source this grip, source that grip, burn the head out, whack it back in, and with a glue, add the head weight, go through another couple of grips. By the time you've sort of gone through that, and you're probably not quite 100% clear still if you haven't got like a TrackMan at hand or a monitor.
Yeah.
As Simon said, you're probably better off jumping in the car. I know it's a day out, but doing it at somewhere which you can gather the data.
Hopefully there's somewhere near you that you can do that with. At least, so it gives you clarity on what the right kind of route is and why, most importantly, because then you can settle on a channel rather than constantly, I wonder whether that was me or the club. I think that's one thing a good fitting can do is clarify whether it's you or the club. So you can say, okay, right, I know I've got a tendency to do X, or if it goes, or at least finding out that it's not the clubs or it is the clubs. I think, getting the answers rather than a little bit searching in the dark. I think that's the danger, because there are so many options out there that it is a minefield.
And we see it all the time that there's guys which come in for a fit and they're sourced. I had a chap the other day, sourced Ventus, Velocore, a couple of driver shafts, like one in the driver, far too heavy and sort of firm, but then he went for exactly the same in the fairway when the fairway's perfect. But then actually, fairway's sound, let's keep that, leave that alone, but then let's give you something which, plus the balance point, I think we changed the balance point, changed the weight structure, brought it down. He was like, oh, amazing. And he was away.
It could be an expensive mistake.
That's what he said. He was like, oh, that's quite expensive. But
So hopefully a bit of clarity and saving some money. Yeah. Down France 8506 evening. I just swapped out my GT3 9 degree for a GTS3 10 degree for more launch and carry, but missing everything off the planet right with the same shaft. Put the GT3 head back on, it's straight again. Any ideas? It's probably, well, it can be one of two things. It could be a head weight thing, that if they're not identical weights, it's going to change the swing weight and the timing of the way it swings. Or if you've got a heavy weight in the back of the GTS3, for some players, and it's heavier as well, for some players, weight back, like for me, a weight back driver opens the face. Weight forward, I can square up more easily. So it could be a combination of the two, but I would check the head weights out first. If the swing weight's the same, if the head weights are the same, then the swing weight should be very, very similar, and there should be minimal effect on dispersion. So my guess is that the GTS3 head weight's different.
Got to be up.
Shaka 79, what a good chance for ambitious juniors playing competitive golf. 11 years old, playing golf since almost 8 years now, so I started young. They should fit the Ping Prodigy irons, already been extended by Ping once.
I've got one.
So the only challenge with this is that I've seen 11-year-olds who are like 5'8". I've seen 11-year-olds who are 4'5". Totally different physiques. So the difficulty is, there isn't really a definite answer to that.
No.
The one thing I would say is the worst thing you can do is go too heavy. Because at that age, even if you're 5'8", then you've grown a lot and the muscles haven't caught up, and chances are there's not a lot of strength there, and heavy can start to really affect the swing development timing. So jumping too soon into something too stable and heavy can be a big problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, especially if they're out of that sort of Prodigy series and they can't go any further. Yeah. The one I would chuck in, just because, to give the audience a one, would be the VA Badass. Yeah. The green sort of series where staggers from 45 all the way to 75 in the sort of increments and weights and various flex codes. But it's quite a nice graphic for them, which helps. But also it's really good on like a price point. Price point isn't too.
Those Acra, the IS series, they're good as well. They swing differently. They're a little higher balance versus the Badass are a little more down the bottom. Yeah.
But as you say, you'd never know. Like you could have someone. I had a junior rocking the other day, and he was swinging drive. He was 14, I think, and he was swinging driver at honestly nearly close to 109, something silly. Like honestly, it's rapid. Yeah. And I was like, this kid's going to have a heavier and stronger shaft and way than what I use. So
so it's very hard, particularly for juniors, because they're developing and growing so quickly that, like what's right now, we'd often try and pitch what will kind of challenge a youngster a little bit, because you don't want to be changing every 6 months. But equally speaking, kind of back end of the season, back end of the summer is a good time to have a look, because then you can pitch something that ideally by the start of the following season will be coming into its own then, but will kind of challenge them over the winter as they're kind of able to work on swing, grow and strengthen a bit to then be good for the next year. Problem if you do it right for now, then by February they'll be out of them. So it is always the challenge for juniors.
Absolutely, it's always a hard one when they jump from that sort of like junior set and then they're getting like a bit stronger, they're playing really good stuff at a nice level. It's that initial sort of investment into like a nice set as well, where they're custom made. But then when you do make that initial first investment for the next sort of 2 years after, and probably even up to like 4 or 5 years after, you're probably just reshafting.
Yeah, ideally use a head that you can manipulate for loft and lie and weights. Yeah, that's where the Pings, to be fair, the Ping are very good. They've got the screw in the toe, and they're easy to adapt over time as well.
And I think if the fit is quite clever, and they will see that and see that longevity in there and put them into a head for that first initial buy, which can then sort of see them a few years and possibly a couple of reshafts.
Absolutely. Peter Kendall, thank you. It was October you saw me. So yeah, I think the dynamics of out the middle, going back to that sort of driver question of anything gain now versus the rogue, out the middle there'll be very little. Off centre, the current range of the best we've seen, so potentially worth a check-up. Richard Skinner, 50/50. Can you test Ping 440K versus GTS2 with a DMR and a blue board shaft and discuss the performance dynamics? It was the GTS2 and the 440K. Okay.
GTS2, 44. Right, we have Lewis Parfrey. Evening, what do you make of people saying to get fitted for irons or wedges on grass, particularly when talking about wedges and about grinds, chipping? Does it make a difference to what you do? So in testing, we're quite lucky where obviously we try and make it, so we test obviously shaft first, and then we will go into, so activation in the shaft into the wedges, from irons into the wedges, generally jumping the weight ever so slightly, possibly going and then testing the flexors, see what you're doing with that. With monitoring that system, you're monitoring off the same lie, so we can hit 5 shots with each shaft, monitor the strike pattern, the consistency with TrackMan, off spin rates, launch characteristics, and get those numbers absolutely perfect off a perfect condition. We then jump to hard mat for pitching. We can obviously play around on TrackMan to mimic a little bit of views on golf course. But one thing I would say is if you are to get fitted outside at a range compared to the golf course, compared to where you're going to play next week, compared to going to play in the winter to summer, conditions are changing so much. So we will see it as an overview of the wedge game as a whole throughout the whole of the year, and getting your wedges which suit your game, your profile of player, and for where you're playing most of your golf throughout the whole of the year. It's quite always a really good question, and it's a good topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of whole outdoor indoor.
Yeah,
system.
outdoor indoor. I mean, ultimately, it's the one thing people say. Oh, you would assume, oh, get fitted off turf, but it's only relevant to that bit of turf on that particular day, because it rains, it's going to play differently. It gets baked out in summer, it's going to play differently. So ultimately, if you're at a fitting centre and they've got a bunker there, that sand's going to be different than the sand at your home course. The depth of it, the type of it, same with the turf. It's actually overrated, because ultimately you're fitting for strike, you're fitting for strike point, divot depth. Now we can look at, yes, you get divots outside, but then we can look at the strike point on the sole of the club and gauge bounce there. Look at the type of shots you're playing. How do you use the wedge and the bounce? How do you play your shorter shots? They're the same questions, but whether it's a mat or turf, you've got to fit for a variety of conditions, particularly here in the UK. We go from rock hard in summer to wet and claggy in the winter.
Soggy, wet and muddy, and it's horrible. I think as long as we as fitters tick every single box in our stages and also gain loads and loads of information from that person, and you're constantly badgering them for questions of like how they play their shots, they're opening, working the grinds, and actually speaking to them about that. I don't see
where they play the majority of their golf.
I don't see we have no one come back or email you and say, oh, I'm not 100% sure on the grind, or not 100% sure on the bounce. It never ever happens. Actually thinking of it, does it?
No, it's incredibly rare, never. Because it's understanding how you play the shots and where you play the majority of your golf. That, are you someone who shuts the, comes in, into out and delivers the leading edge, or someone who works out to and delivers the back edge? You can have the same angle of attack but deliver completely different grinds. So, or use completely different parts of the sole. So, it's understanding the player and where you play your golf and the type of shots you play, actually more so than what you're fitted off in terms of surface.
Okay. Good question though. It's good.
It's a good question.
It's a good question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Right, let's hit.
Stick that onto the driver so it doesn't gear strangely.
So what are we going first? GTS2.
I've been stood around all day and done mackerel swinging, so that's going to claim the.
How are you feeling after the cricket as well?
Did a cricket on Wednesday night, and today is about the first day that I felt fairly normal. We'll do another light net on Wednesday evening in preparation for our match on Sunday, because I'm fully aware the last time I played cricket was about 26 years ago.
Nice.
and I'm going to hurt. But if you're local, we're playing Weybridge Cricket Club. It's going to be a 1 p.m. start on Sunday. And some of the local celebs, James will be playing, I'm playing, Matt Hyatt's playing. Unfortunately, our club builder, Ant, who's probably the best cricketer of a lot of us, is on holiday.
Yeah.
Boo.
Damn it.
But if, yeah, a bit of fun.
Heard Matt's brother's a bit sneaky.
I believe
good,
his cricket scores match his golf scores, which either way is impressive. I was just glad in that net I actually hit the pitch. So yeah, but no, should be good fun. If you're local, come down and have a bit of fun, have a laugh at our expense, and hopefully have a nice Guinness and enjoy the hospitality of Weybridge Cricket Club.
Cheer us on.
So
right, let's see it.
Right. So GTS2 versus the 440K. So we've got the Diamana Blue Board 63 here. So in terms of feel, GTS is, with the polymer on the sole, it's a bit of a harder sound than the GT was. It's a little bit of a harder note because you've got more mass at the back, and where they've gone lighter, it produces a slightly higher pitched sound. So that hasn't been to everybody's liking, but it does mean like that's like, it feels very, very stable at impact. It's got, I think, a fairly fast feel to it. Not that swing was fast, but it's got a fairly fast feel to it. And definitely there's very little sense of twisting and deformation at impact. So I think that's where this head versus Peter Kendall's question earlier versus previous models, it feels a little bit safer in that respect. Now Ping obviously have been the kings of forgiveness over the years, and 440K has been very good at that as well.
Yeah, very good. Super forgiving, back weight system, really good on spin as well. Really, really good spin. Yeah,
it's a little bit more weight naturally at the back of this. Obviously with the GTS, with all of the models now, there's a split mass, so some of the weight's at the front. So this one actually feels, I think when there's the majority of the weights at the back, I think they swing heavier. Even the same, and I've weighed these, they're exactly the same dead weight. But this has a heavier pickup. I think with that mass sat back there, it does.
Absolutely, they've always worked for guys which like that sort of counterbalance sort of shaft feel, haven't they? Really, they've always gone quite deep.
So it has almost a bit of a heavier, swings a little heavier. God, that's just so solid. Now that particular, this is where there is a bit of a difference. I think with the Titleists, a bit like the TaylorMades this year, I think low on the face, that was a hair low on the face. I think it was. That's just one thing. They've got harder to feel the strikes on all of these. This spins a little bit more. The Titleists are very, very good for spin low on the face.
Of all the stuff, because they're going so much for that forgiveness across the face, you're going to lose a little bit of the middle hit on your feeling where exactly the pinpoint of where it is.
I think players that like that feedback on strike point, I think it's becoming harder and harder to get that.
Yeah.
Certainly in the more kind of deep weighted heads. I don't think it's what would be a feel. There's very little feel difference. I still think the Titleist has a slightly tinnier feel. There's a very solid sound and feel to it. That's hard work. But like that wasn't a great contact. So where the Ping head works very well is a little bit heel side as that was. It's not flared spin up particularly. It's retained good ball speed. But with both of them, I'd say there's very little sense of deformation and twisting at impact. I think if you want a bit more launch, GTS2 picks the launch angle up just a little bit more and keeps the spin down a bit more.
And then you can also,
if you want to moderate spin a little bit more, keep it spin, the 440K is
have more scope to move weight systems and create spin, dial and spin as well, aren't you?
Well, if nothing else, those 4 shots should prove that you should warm up before playing.
Stephen _912. Hi guys, could you hear a Pro V1 and a TP5 with a 7 iron? Let's see the spin differences, please.
TP5. We'll have to see. The TP5s haven't necessarily been, their reflective tech ones haven't necessarily been wonderful with giving a spin measures, but I'll give it a go. Okay, TP5 versus Pro V1. So,
It's nice stock 7-iron.
right. So 7-iron here. Now I prefer to be slightly on the lower side for spins. So 19.6 launch and 5.9
3
with that, and then see if I can replicate with a Pro V1. That was thin. Let me give it one more. Not so hot on a contact wise. That's
good. Go one more.
Let's give it. That wasn't a great shot. Got carried away. The first one went too well.
Pretty good.
Hit. So between launch 5.8. So off 5.88. So we're looking at 19.2, 5.88, 5.2 angle of attack, 5.2 angle of attack, 19.6, 5.970. So you're looking at 100 and
isn't it?
no,
Not
90
much.
revs, 90 revs difference on spin, less than half a degree on launch. So very, very, very slightly lower flight out of Pro V1, but about that much.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get through a couple. You've got hi gents, best channel. Thank you very much.
Kind, thank you.
There's some lovely comments coming through. Great show down here. Love the show, all the content. Thanks, gents. Fabulous. Thank you.
That's really kind, thank you.
That's really nice of you. Hi gents, best channel. How do you see a PGI 80 in a P790 for a guy who has 76 miles per hour in a 7-iron?
PGI 80.
PGI 80.
Well, it could potentially work for you. It's so hard with those questions because understand why you're asking, but we haven't got a clue how you swing it. So we can't actually, technically it's not overly heavy. In principle, it sits in that sort of stronger side of graphite, crossing over into the lighter end of steel. Will swing a little bit lighter than equivalent weight in steel, i.e. balance point a bit higher up, so should be easier to get through, but it might not be the right thing for you. There's lots of shoulds and coulds and maybes and ifs, I'm afraid, so it's just impossible to give you a black and white answer. Yeah.
You've got at Gerald Sturgis 6686. Struggling to hit hybrids, but fairways fine except 9-wood. Iron's good, but need more height after a 6-iron.
Yeah.
Could the shaft wait? Or what are your thoughts?
If you're hitting the other fairwoods well, then it's probably the setup of the 9-wood, not the 9-wood itself.
Yeah.
Because that would suggest, like, there are a lot of players that are better with woods and hybrids. So it's potentially a case of looking at, do the specs line up across, or is at that point do you need to go slightly heavier in the shorter length?
Is it the same shaft? Is it the same head weight overall? Is it the same model as well? Because if you're switching between, you might have a lovely Ping shallow faced 7-wood, and then if you're jumping on to a Titleist GT or a GTS, and then the face structure is going to sit differently, it's going to fly differently. So you might be, or especially the tailor-made stuff where it sits a little bit deeper, it might need you to trap down on it a little bit more.
So just make sure they really are matching. Length progressions match and swing weights match. And if it's still not quite working, then that is a case of saying, okay, maybe at that 9-wood in the shorter lengths, a slightly stronger shaft weight might be needed to help timing.
At Superco 727, can you think of an iron shaft that may swing and feel like a KBS 610 wedge specific shaft? I think it's one of the, I think it has one of the stiffest handles, thanks.
Well, the 610 designed around a more stable tip actually to bring launch down, or like slightly lower launch than most wedge shafts. It probably puts it more in line with standard iron shafts. Swings a little more in the bottom half, but if it's got a stable handle, then I think you'd be looking at, it depends what weight it is. That's the thing, 610 goes from 110 grams to 125. But I would say, KBSs probably don't quite match, do they?
No, the only thing is it's quite a different, you might find you'll come out of the KBS family and switch to a different family of brand, and then what you might want to do in the wedge setup and wedge shot doesn't generally quite move exactly to our iron.
Yeah, it might be
spec.
depending which weight it
iron
is,
shot.
that there is a different recommendation depending if it's a 110 versus a 125. So it's one of those where, because there's such a wide range of weights, ask us that question next week if you can.
Yeah, add it in.
But let
We'll
us know
come-
which weight you're playing. We'll give you a more direct
Yeah,
answer.
we'll come with a.
Yeah.
We'll also hit a couple where you can
Yeah.
maybe hit a 610 and then hit a couple of
Right, we better
shots. Right.
wrap up in the next couple of minutes.
Let's have a little look. Shaco 79 have gone for a fitting recently and moved to a Ventus TR5S. So he's had that, gone to a UST PowerCore Blue 6S. I react better with the slightly heavier shafts. Wondering if that would also translate into irons. Currently 95 gram in the irons.
Quite possibly / highly likely. I guess if going heavier in the drive has helped the timing and strike, and you don't have that with the irons, then there's a chance that that is the case. I mean, if you're in a 60 odd gram, sort of mid 60s with the USTs, then 95. If that was a driver shaft, 95 is potentially light.
So irons currently 95 grams.
Yeah.
You'd probably, it'd be interesting if we chucked like a 105, 110 gram shaft.
In principle, would match up a
Yeah,
lot
and
more.
see where you are with your sort of
Right.
weight steps. Currently playing P7 CBs with a Modus 120, 2-degree upright. Had a bit of a swing change and finding my strike going a bit in the toe side. Would an X help move towards the heel? Maybe in the 105 for the weight.
So the 105 in an X is just around 110 grams anyway. So you'd only be dropping 3 or 4 grams. I guess in principle, you could argue going stiffer, does that reduce shaft droop? But I wouldn't necessarily be looking at that with an iron for heel toe strike, because it is pretty minimal between those two. I think it's a case of looking at what sort of length and swing weight are you playing. That will play a part in it. Again, there are a few layers as to what could be causing it. 2 degrees upright. It's going into the toe side. So if it's upright, that would shift it the other way if it's too
Would help
much.
you out.
So
Maybe length, possibly.
yeah, there are a few
Length
different
and
things it
swing
could
weight.
be. There's nothing that stands out as saying, okay, this is definitely the reason why, because I don't know what you're playing before either. So
Yes.
again, few layers.
Sure.
I've just seen Dave Hurley's comment at the back end. Viewers versus Simon Golf Day. Sounds like I'm being ganged up. I think we're going to,
brilliant.
unfortunately, whilst there are some other bits that have come in, we are going to have to
wrap up,
close
of
off,
course.
because I've got to get out. But so second show with good audio. I think James says he thinks Claude has cracked it. So
Our friend-
fingers crossed that
friend
everything is
Claude.
now sorted. And thank you to Claude for helping out. Thank you to everyone for all the questions.
Like, subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on
That's
and
right.
joining me.
Absolutely
And
fine.
basically, so any questions that haven't been answered today, get them in early next week if you're able to, or send an email over to our to the contact form on the web page, and if we can get back to you or include them in a future show, we will do. But thank you for watching.
Amazing.
Hope you all had a great weekend watching the beautiful weather in the UK. I think we've got another couple of weeks of it, and we will.
Indeed.
I might be a broken man on Monday because I'll have played a cricket match the day before.
So
I
maybe go
might not
easy
be able
on
to
him
do the demo
with the
from
shots.
hitting bay. So,
Someone else to do it.
but thanks again for watching. Have a great week, and hopefully I'll be able to stand up next Monday. We'll see you then.